What's going on, everyone? Welcome to what's probably going to be a new series on the channel that I'm going to do every now and then called Behind the Timeline, where I'm going to be breaking down some of my videos, whether it's a trailer or just a normal travel montage. Either one, I'll be breaking down my thought process behind the editing process and how I went about creating the timeline the way that it is. And so as you can see here, this is what the timeline looks like for my Inception modern trailer, which just came out a little bit ago. It's 2021 modern trailer, Age of Ultron style. All that means is I used the trailer music from Avengers Age of Ultron, the teaser trailer music to be specific, and I just put that behind some visuals from Inception to make what I would consider to be a pretty unique trailer, where I'm combining kind of the thriller genre of Inception and taking that to a superhero genre and kind of melding the two to create kind of a interesting mix of the two, if you know what I mean. And I think it comes together really well. So I'm going to break down my thought process, what I was trying to go for, and why I think it works so well. So to start, this is the timeline. It's pretty standard. It's just got the one line of visuals, the one line of audio, and then below the line of audio is just most of the dialogue is there, and there are just a couple instances where the dialogue overlapped, where I would just need to have a couple on the third line, and it's the same for the visuals. I could have had it all in one timeline, but it was easier and it just made more sense to just have it all on this one, not necessarily all on one timeline, on one line, where it just made more sense to have them stacked, because the footage would kind of overlap, and when you're dealing with such increments as not even a full second for some, it's really just pretty convenient to just have multiple layers, and LumaFusion thankfully allows for that. And on the top layer is just the cinema bars to make sure that any logos or watermarks, like the Fandango movie clips, just to make sure that those are blocked. So if I take it off, you can see I'll have a logo there, and I don't want that on the final version. Or there are some times where a notification will come in, and so I have to cover it up, and that's what these just putting that on the top layer allows me to do. Thankfully, LumaFusion has enough layers that I can still do that, and I even have one more if I need it. So the start of the trailer, this is always the hardest part for me. Whenever I'm making a trailer, I need to find something that hooks the audience. I need to find something that is an interesting visual and or some interesting dialogue that makes the audience wonder, okay, what is happening here? So what I chose to do was some dialogue that introduces Cobb, who is the main character, with a bit of a mysterious background. There's a bit of history that's going on in this one line, and that's going to be on top of, or that's going to be behind this visual of a top, which is a recurring motif, visual motif, and a thematic motif throughout all of Inception. And so I began the trailer with a shot of the top, and I'm actually going to come back to it at the end. I kind of contrast it with a different shot of this same top at the end of the trailer. And I think that creates a really unique contrast that I'll point out later. So the dialogue that I chose, I'll play now.
You're here to corrupt one of my brightest and best.
I need an...
So there, it's given some history without explicitly stating it. Cobb is not necessarily in good graces with this person that he's talking to, and that's very clear just from this first line. And so there's already a point of interest there, oh, what has Cobb done? This guy has some moral gray area, and all of that is being done within the first 3 seconds. There's a lot that you want to pack into the beginning of a trailer to make sure that the audience wants to stick around for the rest of it. So then next, what I do is have Cobb say what he's looking for, establish some of the story right away. I don't want to establish the main story. I don't want to give away the main plot line. So I do kind of a subplot that leads to the main plot, him finding someone to work with him in a job. So that's what I do with him asking the question that I'll play for you right now.
You're here to corrupt one of my brightest and best.
I need an architect who's as good as I were.
And so here right away, we see who this architect is. We see who this character is, that being Ariadne. I don't say the name in the trailer. I don't think any of these characters' names are actually in the trailer, but we get introduced to her within the first 10 seconds of the trailer, with the job offer, where Cobb is. This is just the setup for a subplot that the subplot is ultimately a setup for the main plot. That can be a little bit confusing because I just don't want to reveal the main plot in the trailer. So another editing thing I have you notice here is music timing.
And best.
I need an architect who's as good as I were.
With every tone from the music, there is a change in visuals happening. I'll point them out here.
Who's as good as I were.
Mr. Cobb has a job offer he'd like to.
And that's just for engagement's sake. I find it really jarring when I'm watching a video or a trailer and the music doesn't line up with the visuals. That's really distracting and takes me out of it. So I really try to nail the music timing throughout the whole trailer, and that's one of the most important aspects, editing-wise, for me. And that's what I try to do here, going straight to the music, and it actually lines up on the waveform a little bit, if you can tell. It's a little bit difficult. That takes a lot of just going back and adjusting it by the milliseconds. Hundredths of a second can make a difference when it comes to music timing. So that's the process there.
Mr. Cobb has a job offer he'd like to discuss with you.
Now, I switched to the second view deliberately. My original version did not have this, and it just wasn't as engaging because it was just one stale shot for 4.5 seconds. It's like, well, I mean, there could be some more dynamic camera work going on there, and there was actually a second view that I found in one of the trailers. So I decided to use that to keep the audience engaged a little more, because it's not just one still shot for 4 seconds. It's a shot and then it's a reverse shot, and that's more interesting as a viewer, because if it's just one stale camera shot the whole time, it's not very exciting to watch, or you're just not as engaged with the dialogue, even, because, well, what? I mean, this is just a boring visual. Why? It's hard to care about anything. So I really tried to switch up the camera there, just to keep it more engaging, and I think it does a great job of that. And you'll also notice here I had the trailer music dip in order to hear the professor speaking, because his dialogue is kind of quiet. Michael Caine talks kind of quiet in this scene, so I had to let that shine past the music a little bit more than usual with most dialogue.
2 minutes to design a maze that it takes 1 minute to solve. It's gonna have to be better.
And you'll see that visual slams on screen. You'll see here I'll often be doing fading out with the visuals, but no fade ins except for the first shot, because this trailer track has a lot of hard cuts, and so I do that. I follow that with the visuals by just doing these hard cuts. You'll actually see down here, I originally had a fade in, but I actually liked the look of it better when it was a hard cut. I liked the look and the way it syncs with the music better.
To discuss with you.
2 minutes to design a maze that it takes 1 minute.
This is setting up how Ariadne gets introduced. Or how she gets involved in the main plot. So this isn't giving away too much of the story, and it's also an interesting scene that shows us some characteristics of both of these characters, and shows us the intelligence of Ariadne, making her likable before we even see the film, really.
Find a maze that it takes 1 minute to solve. It's gonna have to be better than that.
And she gives it 2 attempts there. And I deliberately cut between her first 2 attempts are both rectangular mazes. That's the first one. That's the second one. And they're not satisfactory for what Cobb needs. which I'll play the whole segment here soon. And then after those two failed mazes, she thinks outside the box, literally and figuratively, after being denied, which you can see by her face here really upsets her. And then there will be a bit of a contrast there at the end of this whole section. So I'll play the whole
2 minutes to design a maze that it takes 1 minute to solve. You're gonna have to be better than that.
So there, you can see the satisfaction on her face. And I deliberately added this shot of her looking angry. I did not have that in the first couple cuts, but I've got it here because it's a contrast from this moment to like 6 seconds later, she's satisfied with herself. And that change already, like, you can see her being proud of herself, and it sets her up as an intelligent character with the circular maze, thinking outside the box. Although one kind of funny detail I saw pointed out, that maze actually doesn't have a beginning or an end. So in concept, it's a smart maze. But yeah, that's just a botched execution. That's nothing wrong with the character. So yeah, that was the goal of that section, just to establish a subplot that establishes character and then builds up to the main story, but without revealing that main story too much. So that's kind of the first chunk of the trailer. I kind of separate this into 4 different parts, and that was the first chunk, which is kind of the introduction, and it's the slowest part of the trailer for sure.
That's what I like.
And I always like to show the logos of companies. And this is not something I usually do. I don't usually put the director's name in the trailer. But Christopher Nolan is such a big name, and I'm making this trailer as if it's coming out in 2021. That's why I have 2021 modern trailer. Christopher Nolan is a big name, and he's been responsible for some pretty revolutionary films, most notably, at least most recently, Tenet, which, as if this movie were coming out now, Tenet would probably be referenced quite a lot, and that could really lead to some major hype. And adding his name to that, adding his name to the trailer, generates some more hype for at least some people who are viewing the trailer, maybe not everyone.
We bring the subject into that dream.
There's some exposition about how the dream works. I do want to establish how this world works, at least somewhat. Obviously, there's a lot more explanation that's going to be needed than can be fit in a 2-minute trailer. But just giving the audience a general idea of the universe works also gives them an idea of what the story could center around. And it will actually, this line actually sets up the cliffhanger at the end of the trailer, which I'll get into once that.
We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their subconscious.
They fill it with their subconscious, so that's more exposition about how it works. And this might be my favorite visual spot in the whole trailer, where this is like a 10-second sequence in the film where this city is folding in on itself. This is in a dream sequence, and it's like at least 10 seconds, could be even more. So I had to condense this into like 5 seconds with the fade out, and like 4.5 seconds before the fade out. So that's cutting it in half almost. But thankfully, this music had perfect beats for jump cuts, which I'll play.
And they fill it with their subconscious.
As you can see, the city folds in on itself, but it jumps a little bit with the music. So I do jump cuts that time perfectly with the music that also show off the scale and show off the really impressive spectacle that's being put on display here. And I was able to do that effectively because of this awesome aspect that was added to the music, which I'll play this one part again just to hit the point home.
We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their subconscious.
What are you doing here?
And that is an important question. What are you doing here? Because you need to know why why should we care about this character? And this trailer did not have that for the first 45 seconds. And so now I wanted to establish that aspect. So we've established what he's doing, and we've established what he's doing to succeed in that job, and that being his acquisition of Ariadne, but we don't know why he's doing it yet. And so here we get that information, and it's one of the most impactful parts of the trailer, because this is where the emotional resonance comes in. And it adds emotional stakes to the movie and to the trailer, rather than just cool imagery and will he survive or not. There's more to it than that, and that's I really wanted to hit that home in this part of the trailer that is still kind of slow.
What are you doing here, Tom?
I think I found a way home.
So this is a shot of his kids. This comes from the beginning of the movie, and that's kind of what he's chasing throughout the whole movie. He wants to get home, as the dialogue says here.
I think I found a way home.
And I intentionally put the visual of his kids on top of the dialogue of him saying, I need to find a way, I think I found a way home, because the kids are what he wants. He's not necessarily just trying to find he's not necessarily just trying to get to his geographical home. He is also trying to get to his kids, which is more important than just that geographical location, because he kind of feels at home with his kids. And so putting that visual to that emotion, to that dialogue, all of it, it creates a great sense of urgency. And what
It's a job.
That's another ominous shot at the top, and then just showing the job. And then here we're going to be getting into the third part of this trailer. We just got through the emotional part, where it's talking about why he needs to do this and what his motivation is. And now we are getting into the more intense part. So there's just a little more build up to that part, to that intense part. Just a little more build up where we get some even more, we further the idea that he needs to do this job. Because another reason will be
Powerful people. People who I believe can fix my charges permanently.
So you hear that. People who I believe can fix my charges permanently. And that is kind of the key. That is the hard hitter. What are his charges? We don't know as the audience yet. So that's, not only is it a hard-hitting line, it's a line that sets up, okay, yeah, this is a big deal. He really needs to do this. There are pretty high stakes here. He needs to have false charges reversed, and he wants to get back to his kids. Two major things going on that have just been added in this section that are going to make the next part, where it's just the intense stuff and a little more superficial, it's going to make that part more intense, because we know why it's happening now, and we know what's at stake. And you'll also notice that I put in more shots of this professor than I even do of Cobb, and that's intentional. So you can see this is when he's first explaining the idea, before he mentions that the charges can be reversed. And then after, so he's looking like disappointed, like there's not even really a chance of this. And then after he brings up the charges, he looks a little more curious and invested. Like, oh, that's not a bad idea. So I'll play that section again, just in full, just so you can get the full sense of it.
Some very, very powerful people. People who I believe can fix my charges permanently.
Now we're going into the third part of 4, where I just start with a crazy visual, the market exploding in her dream. We're kind of in her shoes throughout the movie, and her reaction right here is kind of what the audience's reaction would be to seeing this part of the trailer, because it's just jaw-dropping. This is like not stuff you would expect to see in a conventional movie at all. And I've also got those exploding to the beats, or to the music.
And this job.
As you can see there. So next we got our first shot of Maul in the trailer. I don't think she was shown up to this point, and she's shown to be sympathetic in this shot, vulnerable and like damaged. She looks concerned, and we see this house. We don't know what it is. It's another point of interest, some more mystery, and that's going to be blatantly contrasted in just one shot later, where we see her antagonistically staring down one of our protagonists. So yeah, just that contrast there, really interesting, sets up what could be conflict in the film.
Job. This last job.
This is a very, very important visual that I focused a lot on this specific part. These 1.17 seconds. This is actually what I originally had here. This is what I originally had.
This last job.
Which isn't bad. You know, it's got the music timing right here.
This last job.
But it's just more action that we don't have a whole lot of context for yet. Whereas this visual is him insisting. This is Cobb's acting on full display. You can tell how passionate he is about this, and putting a face to this dialogue during this intense section, you can sometimes get lost in the visuals and in the spectacular music. But I still wanted to keep it grounded. I still wanted to show who was behind all the drama here, who was behind all the visuals here. Keep an emotional core intact, even though it could be easy to get carried away by how cool the visuals are. So I wanted to keep that intact, keep it a little more intimate, and give a face to the dialogue that was being said.
This last job.
And obviously that's a very striking visual, like very unusual. What is a train doing in the middle of traffic in a random city? Just a point of interest. And this is where the trailer is at its most superficial, where there's still emotional stuff going on, as I just said here, but this like 6 seconds or so is really focused on the spectacle and just the impressive visuals that you can come there and see. Because there's been a lot of emotion packed into this trailer, there's a little bit of wiggle room where I can just show off some of the superficial stuff, because they are, let's be honest, they're cool shots, which gets into the hallway fight, of course. One of the most iconic fight scenes, one of the most iconic scenes in this movie, that's for sure. But I only show a second and a half. That full scene is at least 2 minutes long. I think it goes up to 4 minutes or something like that. And it's really, really unique scene. And it's almost worth the price of admission just for that scene. So I just wanted to give a little taste of it, but nothing that reveals too much. And that's certainly a point of interest for audience members who are watching. So I'll just play the beginning of this whole section again.
And this job. This last job. That's how I get it.
The last shot of the third section, which is, again, just super mysterious. Like, what is happening? How? That does not look real. I mean, and it's not. It's in a dream. But as the audience member watching this trailer, you wouldn't know that yet. And it actually, with the falling debris, it kind of transitions into this text card really well, pretty smoothly. And this text card is from the original trailer. I don't remember which one, but it says, "Your mind is the scene of the crime," which, again, just reinforces the idea that all this is from dreams. It's a really, really unique concept, and that's just a cool line to hear, or to see, and just, it's really going to bring some intrigue to the trailer. And of course I've got those going to the music when the music like punches in pretty loud. And you'll also notice the audio increases. It increases 5 decibels here from this one scene. Yeah, in the music right here. Really wanted it to be intense. And that's, yeah, here. You got the gradual shift. It's kind of hard to tell. I'll go look at the keyframes here. So yeah, you can see here, I took the volume from negative 5.6 decibels to 0 decibels, which may sound like, wait, 0 decibels, there's no audio. Sure, like, no, that's just the standard amount. And then if you're at negative, you're just removing a little bit of the sound, and if you're adding to it, you're adding a little bit of the sound. So I ramped up the music there because there's no dialogue in most of this section. The only dialogue there is right at the end here. And that stuff didn't have much background music behind it, so I was able to edit it in and get it pretty loud without it without it conflicting with the trailer music too much. So yeah, ramping the music up just gets this is where we're getting to the fourth part, the really intense part. It's only like 10 seconds long, but there's a lot packed in. So we got this really ominous glare from Mal. Again, more of her in her antagonistic ways. Just going to leave the audience wondering what is happening, what is causing this. And of course, this is all synced to the music. And then we got the shots from the dream sequence in the third act. Just some blockbuster action. Like I had to put some of this action in the trailer. High level action. It's going to be intriguing there. And then one last shot of Maul being antagonistic again. Just really eerie shot. Like things are just falling down, and she just looks like she's in control. And then we go back to the top. So I mentioned at the beginning there is a contrast with the top imagery at the beginning of the trailer and at the end. So here you can see it spins without falling for the whole shot. And the shot that I took this from, it actually spins the whole time. It doesn't fall over. At the beginning, top is spinning and it falls over. At the end, top stays up the whole time. So that's another interesting contrast that can be appealing to the viewer. And here we get into the final shot where it's this building getting torn away, really spectacular visual. And then you have Cobb looking up at it, looking terrified, with some dialogue behind it that'll play. And that's that. That is it for the visual aspect of the trailer. It's really suspenseful. Like, wake me up, wake me up. What is she referring to? What's happening in this dream? Like, there's so much mystery, there's so much intrigue that I tried to get at. So I'm just gonna play this last 10 sections, part 4, in full right here.
That's how I get it.
Yeah, so that's the final section. It ends on a hard cut to black that matches the music perfectly. Now we get into the title card. There's not a whole lot to say. It's just a really unique shot. Starts out with what looks like a cityscape and then turns into a title card. Although, one point of interest is the original title card was not red. It was just plain white, but I thought it looked a little more intimidating to have it be a red title card because that instills a little more fear. So it's a long title card that fits with the music really well. Date that it's going to be coming out, and then that's it. Very fun trailer to make. I really hope you guys liked it when you saw it. I tried a lot of new things. Like, I hadn't really done a movie like Inception before. I have been doing more and more like various types of movies recently, but Inception I really enjoyed, and I thought this would be a great trailer to make. This would be a great movie to make a trailer for, because I haven't seen all that many Inception like modern trailers. I've seen some with like the Tenet music. That one was cool. But yeah, so the inspiration for this. Oh, I will show one final shot of the timeline here. Just to. There it is. Yeah, not too complicated. If you're looking like at this and this terrifies you, like as a video editor or even just as like someone who just watches content, if this looks horrifying, if this looks like it's a whole lot of work, it's not too bad. Like if you're a video editor and this is daunting, don't let this scare you. There are certainly cleaner ways to make timelines. I certainly could have trimmed down. Like I did not have to have these 4 layers here, but I just chose it because it was easier for me. And so yeah, don't be put off by this, or by other people you see that are making high level stuff. If you want to make like a trailer, or do you want to make some kind of travel montage or something, like just go for it. And you don't need to have a really complicated timeline to have something that turns out to be really good. I've had very simple timelines that make great videos. I've had one timeline where it's one audio track and it's just a bunch of visuals and that's it. It's possible. So yeah, don't get discouraged by this massive timeline at all, because it's truly not as bad as it looks. And just to talk a little bit more about the inspiration, I got the idea from this trailer, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker trailer, Age of Ultron style, by Mr. I don't know how to pronounce that, Mr. Bamasan. I'll say Mr. Bamasan. Awesome trailer. The timing that really got me to want to make this is just this last part right here.
So forth the last.
Oh wait, no. I think this movie's terrible, but this is like a really good trailer for such a terrible movie.
As once I fell.
So he was able to find a full version of the music, which I'll actually talk about later.
So forth the last.
So suspenseful. And yeah, the title card flashes on screen with the music. It's just a hard cut. It's awesome. I would highly recommend checking this video out. This was the inspiration. This was what got me to use this song. I think this is actually my introduction to the song. So yeah, you can find the song right here, feature presentations. One interesting thing I'm going to talk about with the music actually is towards the end, in the Avengers Age of Ultron trailer, there is dialogue from Ultron, I think.
There are no strings on me.
And you'll notice that ending to that song is very long. It's like 9 seconds. Whereas compared to mine, right here, that was like 3 seconds. This is like 6 seconds longer. And Mr. Bamasan was able to find a version or to make a version that didn't have that dialogue in there. But I'm not good enough at audio engineering to do that. So I was like, oh no, what do I do? I can't edit that dialogue out and I can't find a cleaner version. I looked for a long time to try and find a version. And of course I was able to keep the rest of it, just the part where there was dialogue I had to cut out. And thankfully, this channel, Age of Ultron Soundtrack, managed to upload a version, as you can hear right here. That's what I used. And if it weren't for this, I don't really know what I would have done to finish out this trailer. So this was a huge help. I really got to give this person credit here. So all of these links will be in the description down below. They're all good stuff. And make sure you watch that podcast episode. It's a really fun conversation, and I'm proud of the podcasts that we've started so far, and there are going to be many more great episodes to come. So look forward to that in the future. I hope you enjoyed the first look into my video editing process with Behind the Timeline. I will likely do more of these in the future as I make more stuff. But for now, that's it. See you guys.